In this video, I'll show you November 19th, 2018. Two City of Brookings police officers stopped 49-year-old Jennifer Gaiman as she traveled home from a night of karaoke with her friends in Brookings, Oregon. Miss Gaiman, who has been diagnosed with Best disease with MAX, degeneration of both eyes, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma, lumbar degeneration causing lower back pain and symptoms, and peripheral neuropathy, was riding her three-wheeled mobility scooter on the sidewalk when the officers stopped her.
I just want to go home. It's freezing.
It is cold.
Why are you stopping me then? I've been riding this thing for over 2 years now.
I'm going to explain it to you in a second. We're stopping you because you're on the sidewalk with it.
Yeah,
you rode through a crosswalk.
It's a legal thing on the sidewalk. Look it up. It's a mobile scooter. It's a mobile scooter.
Okay.
It's an electronic scooter.
Yeah, it's a mobile scooter.
I gotta actually start.
Okay, do you understand what that means? It's my mobile scooter. It's how I get around. I don't have a car. Okay? It's like it's like Ira's.
Is there a
He
reason
goes
you're
on.
yelling?
Yeah, because I'm getting pissed off.
Why are you getting pissed
Because
off?
I want to go home. You guys are pulling me over for no reason.
We're on
It's
a
like
lawful traffic
Ira's.
stop.
It's like Ira's. You know Ira, the blue guy with the guy who's riding around? It's exactly like his, except it's got 2 seats. That's all it is.
It's an electronic
Why?
scooter.
Exactly.
Do you deny that it's an electronic scooter?
It's not an electronic scooter, and I can ride it on a sidewalk.
Is it gas powered?
No, it's not gas.
Okay.
I
So
gotta
it's
go.
electronic.
I'm cold. You guys are cold.
You're not free to leave.
Yeah, I am.
No, you're
No,
not.
you're
Yeah, I am, because you legally cannot stop me.
You're lawfully detained right now. You are
For what?
literally on a lawful
For
traffic
what?
stop. You see those red and blue lights?
For what, though?
Are you gonna
Give
let
me.
him explain it?
Yeah, because you don't have a reason to. You guys are legally. You're taking my disability act and you're throwing it in the garbage.
I have no
This is
idea
my
what you're talking
disability scooter. This is how I get around, and you know that. You've seen me many times around this town riding it.
about. Okay. Are you gonna let him explain to you why you're actually on a lawful traffic stop?
Okay. So we stopped you because it was actually looked up before, okay? You can't ride this in a crosswalk and on the sidewalk.
While Miss Gaiman and the officers debate whether her scooter is an electronic scooter or a mobile scooter, under Oregon law, both types of scooters are considered a, quote, motor-assisted scooter. Section 8. 01.348 of the Oregon Revised Statutes defines a motor-assisted scooter as a vehicle that is designed to be operated on the ground with not more than 4 wheels, has a foot support or seat for the operator's use, can be propelled by motor or human propulsion, is equipped with a power source that is incapable of propelling the vehicle at a speed of greater than 24 miles per hour on level ground, and if the power source is electric, has a power output of not more than 1,000 watts. Under this definition, both a 2-wheeled standing electric scooter and a 3-wheeled scooter with a seat like Miss Gaiman's would qualify as motor-assisted scooters. Section 8, 14.524 of the Oregon Revised Statutes prohibits individuals from operating a motor-assisted scooter on a sidewalk except to enter or leave adjacent property. But Ms. Gaiman argues that because she uses the scooter as a mobility device, she is allowed to ride on the sidewalk. Under Section 35.137 of Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, a state or local government is required to, quote, make reasonable modifications in its policies, practices, or procedures to permit the use of other power-driven mobility devices by individuals with mobility disabilities. While this sounds straightforward enough, case law is unsettled about whether this title of the ADA applies to public sidewalks. Section 35.102 of Title II states that it applies to, quote, all services, programs, and activities provided or made available by public entities. In the 2002 case of Barden v. City of Sacramento, the Federal Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals determined that because, quote, the focus of the inquiry is not so much on whether a particular public function can technically be characterized as a service, program, or activity, but whether it is a normal function of a governmental entity maintaining the accessibility of public sidewalks for individuals with disabilities falls within the scope of Title II. However, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals came to the opposite conclusion in the 2010 case of Frame versus City of Arlington, holding that sidewalks, curbs, and parking lots are not Title II services, programs, or activities. Because the U.S. Supreme Court has yet to resolve this circuit split, and Oregon is in the Ninth Circuit, a court evaluating Miss Gaiman's situation would likely agree that the sidewalk was covered by Title II of the ADA and could therefore conclude that allowing Miss Gaiman to use her scooter on the sidewalk was a reasonable modification to Oregon law. So, with a mobile scooter, sit right around here.
Old people can't ride them on the sidewalk?
Nope, not according to the Oregon Department of Transportation. I'll look it up for you, just so you can know that I'm not messing with you, and he's not messing with you.
Okay, so I'll let everybody know that you guys have bad laws in this town, and that people that have disabilities... No, you know what? That's disabilities, okay? These people ride these scooters for disability. You want them riding on the streets so they get hit by a car? You kidding me?
I don't make the rules.
Yeah, well...
Grab some information.
Do you have an ID on you?
I don't need to give you my ID.
You do. You are lawfully detained. You've been explained that. You will provide...
The officers demand that Miss Gaiman provide her name or identification because she is being lawfully detained. While the Oregon does not have a stop and identify law that requires individuals to identify themselves, if police officers have a reasonable suspicion that they are involved in criminal activity, Oregon law does require that individuals provide identification during a traffic stop. Under Section 807.570 of the Oregon Revised Statutes, it is a Class C misdemeanor for an individual to fail to present and deliver a driver's license, driver permit, or out-of-state license to a police officer when requested by the police officer upon being lawfully stopped or detained when driving a vehicle. Although Section 801.590 of the Oregon Revised Statutes defines a vehicle as, quote, any device in, upon, or by which any person or property is or may be transported or drawn upon a public highway and includes vehicles that are propelled or powered by any means, which would include Miss Gaiman's scooter. Section 807.570 clarifies that, quote, it is a defense to. Any charge under this section that the person so charged produce a license, driver permit, or out-of-state license that had been issued to the person and was valid at the time of violation of this section. The inclusion of this defense shows that this code is intended to prevent individuals from driving without a valid license and not to criminalize a citizen's refusal to identify themselves. While Title II of the ADA requires the city to make reasonable modifications to accommodate Miss Gaiman's mobility scooter, Section 35.137 does allow a public entity to ask an individual using a power-driven mobility device to, quote, provide a credible assurance that the mobility device is required because of the person's disability. A public entity must accept a valid, state-issued disability parking placard or card or other state-issued proof of disability as a credible assurance that the use of the other power-driven mobility device is for the individual's mobility issues. Section 35.137 also states that, quote, in lieu of a valid state-issued disability parking placard or card or state-issued proof of disability, a public entity shall accept as a credible assurance a verbal representation, not contradicted by observable fact, that the other power-driven mobility device is being used for a mobility disability. While the officers were permitted to stop Miss Gaiman to inquire about her use of the scooter, if a court found that allowing her to drive the scooter on the sidewalk was a required reasonable modification, it would likely conclude that she had provided sufficient assurance of her disability. Because I want to get home.
With me, and you guys see me riding this many times, and you know it. There's my ID.
I've never seen you riding this around.
Yes, you have. Can I please get my ID back now?
No, you will get it back once we finish.
You asked me to show you what the rules were.
No, I just want to go. I can look them up myself.
No.
I'm cold and I want to go and shower.
Oh,
really?
Chelsea West, Senator about California, UT Oregon.
I have no warrants. I have nothing.
Copy.
Thank you. Give me back my ID.
No, you are not free to go right now. You're not free to go until we are finished.
I'm finished with you. I'm not going to say one more word to you. And I can't look at that because I can't see your phone.
Okay. So in Oregon, since this is a electronic scooter, you're not allowed to have passengers on it. That's one rule. You are required to wear a helmet.
No, you don't.
You are.
You are not allowed to ride it on sidewalks. You're not allowed to ride it in crosswalks. All right, the officer states that when operating her scooter, Miss Gaiman is not allowed to ride it in crosswalks or carry passengers, and that she must wear a helmet. While Section 814.528 of the Oregon Revised Statutes prohibits operating a motor-assisted scooter in a crosswalk, requiring that the operator walk the motor-assisted scooter in a crosswalk, it provides a clear exception for individuals with disabilities, stating, quote, "This section does not apply to a person with a disability operating a motor-assisted scooter in a crosswalk." Although Miss Gaiman's disability did permit her to ride her mobility scooter in a crosswalk, the officer's other assertions appear to have more merit. Section 814.530 of the Oregon Revised Statutes prohibits operating a motor-assisted scooter while carrying another person, and Section 814.534 requires motor-assisted scooter operators to wear protective headgear on a highway or on premises open to the public. While there is an exception to the helmet requirement if, quote, wearing the headgear would violate a religious belief or practice of the person, there is no exemption for people with disabilities. The relationship between Title II of the ADA and these laws is complicated, and while the city is required to make reasonable modifications to its rules to allow Miss Gaiman to use her scooter, the ADA doesn't permit her to operate the scooter in whatever way she wishes. Generally, there must be a nexus between an individual's disability and the requested modification, and it is difficult to imagine how an exemption from wearing a helmet or carrying a passenger would be necessary based on Miss Gaiman's disability. Unfortunately, there is no case law on this matter in particular, but I believe it would be a stretch for a judge to conclude that Miss Gaiman was exempt from these laws because of her disability. When Miss Gaiman asks for her ID back, the officers inform her that the stop is not over yet, and over the course of the next 15 minutes, the officers write Miss Gaiman multiple citations. Oh, I'll go ahead and explain it.
You know, I've had a citation.
So here's the deal. I'm going to do my
Thank
job.
you. No, I don't need your job.
Okay.
You're not doing your job, though.
Do my job.
You're not thoroughly protecting because listen, those people
So I'm
up there
trying to issue a
screaming
citation
and
right
shit.
now, and you're
Okay,
berating
come
me,
on, hurry up.
which is actually causing me to pay more attention and address
Hurry up.
your aggressiveness, which is
Hurry the
preventing me from doing my job.
Yeah, just
So if you try to reach and grab something out of my hand again, you're going to go to jail tonight.
hurry the
You're a police officer. You understand that?
hurry the up.
Okay. That was your warning.
After issuing the citations, the officers informed Ms. Gaiman that she was not permitted to ride her scooter home, which was 1 or 2 miles away, because she was not wearing a helmet. But Ms. Gaiman rode the scooter home anyway. The officers followed Ms. Gaiman home in their patrol cars, with their lights and sirens.
Criminal charges were brought against Ms. Gaiman in Curry County, and on May 8, 2019, a jury convicted Ms. Gaiman of attempting to elude a police officer, which is a Class C felony. A judge sentenced her to 5 days in jail and 18 months of probation, but Ms. Gaiman appealed the conviction. As of this episode, her appeal is currently pending with oral arguments scheduled for February 25, 2021. On March 17, 2020, Ms. Gaiman filed a lawsuit in the Federal District Court for the District of Oregon. Ms. Gaiman's complaint alleges that she was unlawfully detained and arrested without probable cause in violation of the 4th and 14th Amendments, and that she was discriminated against based on her disability in violation of Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and also asserts causes of action for assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and false arrest. The complaint requests $500,000 in compensatory damages and punitive damages in a, quote, fair and reasonable amount to be proven at trial. As of date of this episode, Ms. Gaiman's lawsuit is still pending, and a telephonic pretrial conference is scheduled for March 8, 2021. Overall, the Brookings Police Department officers get AC- because although a majority of their conduct was within the bounds of their authority, the officers exercised poor discretion, ignored relevant facts of the encounter, and neglected to consider the practical implications of their demands. Based on the conflicting circuit court opinions mentioned earlier, it is likely that a judge would consider the Brookings officers to have been acting in good faith when they initially stopped Miss Gaiman, and therefore entitled them to qualified immunity. However, Miss Gaiman's claim of discrimination may prove challenging to defend against considering the manner in which the officers conducted this stop. The officers' orders placed Miss Gaiman in a compromised situation where she may very well have been stranded and unable to get home. Instead of forcing Miss Gaiman to leave her scooter behind, the officers could have offered her a ride home, or followed her home to make sure that she didn't get injured while riding without a helmet. Not only are there serious ethical questions to be raised about this type of conduct, but it also betrays the spirit of the law. It is highly unlikely that any law was ever written with the intention to deprive a disabled individual of an assistive device, and this interaction highlights the importance of exercising professional discretion, and considering the real-world results of enforcing the law. Ms. Gaiman also gets a C- because although she may have been a victim of police misconduct, she likely broke the law by riding her scooter without a helmet. And she did break the law by refusing to stop for the officers and leading them on a low-speed pursuit. It is difficult to fault Ms. Gaiman for her attitude, considering the context of the interaction, but her decision to lead the officers on a chase was childish and highly illegal. Miss Gaiman may have been in a situation where she had no other choice but to ride her scooter home, but she could have made an effort to reason with the officers and call their decision-making into question. Miss Gaiman appeared to be operating under the misconception that once a citizen has been cited for a violation, they cannot be cited again for the same violation. And even though she may have been confused about the law, that does not excuse her decision to continue driving her scooter for over a mile with the police in pursuit behind her. As discussed on many episodes of ATA, it is not legal to resist or evade an arrest, even if you believe the arrest to be unlawful. And this interaction is a testament to that fact, considering that Miss Gaiman was tried and convicted for doing so. While I do commend Miss Gaiman for having the courage to challenge the officers and for following up this interaction with the proper legal action, I also wholly disagree with her decision to engage in a chase with the officers, and I cannot rightfully issue her a higher grade after blatantly breaking the law. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you. Thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe our channel for next video.